Hello everyone, and this is my review for Monday Night Raw on March 16, 2015. And man, outside of a couple segments of Raw, I really didn't enjoy this Raw all that much. Outside of a couple segments, and they're pretty much, again, leading more towards the main event matches at WrestleMania. So let's just go ahead and say, where I was probably most disappointed at, and that's still the Intercontinental title picture. I like the fact that they finally brought it full circle, and Wade Barrett finally has the Intercontinental title back. I didn't like the gimmick or the story being told that everyone's trying to steal the title and everything like that. I didn't like that. The whole ladder match concept, I like it. The biggest problem with it right now is that 7 people. They should have kept it at 6, or they should go with 8. Hopefully they add one more person in there. Obviously, it's not gonna be Goldust at this point because he was working with the stuff with the with the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, and that is where one disappointment is, because he and Stardust storyline, or Cody Rhodes storyline, was actually relatively good last month, and they just went ahead and nixed it for no reason. At least in my own personal point of view, they did not. They didn't really they really didn't have a reason behind that. They just kind of nixed it and got rid of it for really no good reason. And they aren't even going to have the two of them at least, play off that feud at least a little bit with the Intercontinental title. They kind of have them in separate matches now. So that's a big disappointment right there, that they're not even gonna, follow through all the way with that, especially after the promo Cody did with his dad and Goldust backstage at Fastlane. It could have really played off of this for a really good match at WrestleMania, but I guess we're not going to get to see that this time around. They got them in the 2 separate matches. You also had, and this one wasn't too bad, but you're finally waiting for Mizdow to finally just fully snap and go off on the Miz. After the slap, and now this week we're getting a skull-crushing finale. You're just expecting that to happen. Actually, I'm hoping that they decide to do the do it at WrestleMania, where it looks like Miz is going to get the victory, but Mizdow eliminates him in the end there. So hopefully they'll give something for that. The build up to the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, it's what it is right now, and it's not necessarily all that good. It's not necessarily all that good, but then again, building up a battle royal at a pay-per-view is really hard to do. You're kind of limited to what you can do, and so it's not really coming off all that good on TV. I mean, obviously they had the stare down with Kane and Mark Henry. You also had separate matches with like Ryback and Miz. Mixing things up with everyone going into WrestleMania, but nothing really all that spectacular. And it kind of is what it is. It is a bit disappointing at this point in time, at least for these certain matches. I think the ladder match is going to be a lot of fun to watch at WrestleMania. I hope they add one more person to it, since they have it at 7 at this time, to kind of even things out going into the match. Also, the Battle Royal, I've always enjoyed watching Battle Royals, so I don't feel like that's going to be a disappointing match at all at the pay-per-view. So we'll see where those matches go. They also having the build up between Nikki and Brie Bella and Paige and AJ. Actually not that bad. It does go to show, even though everybody knows the Divas don't really have the drawing power as any of the superstars do, but when they're given time, the fans can get behind the matches. And you saw that a little bit tonight. They weren't going overly wild during AJ Nikki's match, but they were getting behind it the longer it went on, and that just goes to show that they can the fans will get behind the women's matches, especially if they're relatively good ones like tonight's was. So we'll see how that tag team match goes. I wish it was an actual title match going into the pay-per-view, but a tag match will have to do in this case. I guess for all of them at least getting some kind of TV time and a match at WrestleMania. So we'll see how they continue on with that into next week's show, and we'll see what kind of match you get at WrestleMania as well. Now this is going to bring me into where basically the main matches of WrestleMania, and I thought most of these at least these segments came off relatively well. Maybe not perfect, but relatively well. The Cena-Rusev contract signing. The points with Cena talking and Rusev talking were good. The Russian attorney, they should have just had him be an attorney and have him talk in a normal voice instead of what has to be. And this probably goes, to the credit Alana of being able to do at least a decent Russian accent. This guy's Russian accent was so bad. Just so bad. It was almost funny. Actually, it was extremely hilarious how bad his accent was. Or his attempt at doing a Russian accent while speaking English. It was very hilarious. Other than that, everything they did between Cena and Rusev was relatively good. That guy was just, why are you there? Go away. That's one of those go away moments. We don't need you here. Oh man. Moving on from that one, the Bray Wyatt promo was relatively decent. You really do want to see a confrontation between The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt before going into the pay-per-view, or at least have something more than what they have been doing. Like, obviously people are going to be amped up to see Undertaker again, but there's nothing really behind this match other than Bray Wyatt trying to show he's the new face of fear. And like I said, you kind of hope for an appearance from The Undertaker before WrestleMania. I don't know if they're going to actually do that, because obviously rumor mills are they're going to keep him off TV until the night of WrestleMania. So we'll see what next week brings, but you really want to have a confrontation between the two of them going into the pay-per-view. So hopefully that's what we get next week. I'll go ahead with what also began and ended the show this week, before I talk about Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. And that was the whole Seth Rollins going up against Randy Orton. The way they played it off, very predictable way of playing it off. I actually don't mind it. It was somewhat entertaining to see how they played off the whole Seth Rollins making it look like he was alienating everybody in the Authority, down from Big Show and Kane to his security force, to even Triple H and Stephanie in backstage segments, leading up into what was supposed to be the match with him and Randy Orton. Even though they're going to have the match at WrestleMania, they were going to do one tonight. Obviously, you're not going to give away a full-on WrestleMania match right before the pay-per-view itself, so you figured it was going to be some kind of interference angle or something like this, but I'm kind of glad that was the way it played out. Like I said, extremely predictable, with making it look like he was going to alienate everybody, and then not, and then basically have it be a trick the entire time. But that, with that being said, also the appearance of Sting on the actual show itself, to aid Randy Orton and to fend off the entire Authority, obviously to get to trying to stick one again to Triple H in there, was another good way of ending the show this week. I thought it came off relatively well. Also, they obviously, if you did tune into the network right after Raw, where they did the interview with Randy Orton and Sting. At least they finally have used his voice. Initially, when it looked like he was about to talk, it's like the first thing I didn't want to hear was them to try to maybe do that disembodied voice that they did last week for Sting over the microphone, versus actually having him use using his own voice in there. And thankfully that's not the route that they went. And he cut a very short and relatively decent promo about Triple H and going into WrestleMania as well. So it wasn't overly bad in that. It wasn't bad in any case this week where it was last week, because of just how they did the whole video package and everything. This week came off relatively good with Sting and Triple H. I like the ending of Raw, where you have Sting going after the Authority and basically getting into Triple H's face, of course with Randy Orton, with Seth Rollins as well. That came off relatively good. Now this leads me into talking about Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar. The promo that Brock Lesnar did, this is the only time you ever need to hear Brock Lesnar talk, when it's in a pre-taped recorded area, because they can cut it out, or he's good at giving excerpts of what he wants. He's not good at full promos like Paul Heyman is. Neither is really Roman Reigns, but he came off with a decent promo on Paul Heyman as in front of Paul Heyman as well, after Paul Heyman again delivered another excellent promo. And man, he is doing a really good job of coming off as this very angry type guy. Everybody's out to get him, or basically saying that some kind of screw job is going to happen at WrestleMania or something like this. He's even playing it off well, pretending to get cut off from the microphone and everything on that sense. I like where Heyman's bringing this match, and pretty much it is all him, selling this match, because they haven't had that confrontation yet, and at least you're going to have some kind of confrontation between Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar before the pay-per-view actually happens. In this case, where you'll have the two of them in the same general area beforehand with next week's Raw. So out of all the build-ups, that's probably been the one that has had the best going around with it. Obviously, they've had a very long build-up with Mizdow and Miz, so hopefully that one comes to a head with WrestleMania as well. The Sting Triple H build-up is better one this week than it was last week. Bray Wyatt, and actually Bray Wyatt Undertaker one was kind of a downturn this week, because last week's segment was actually really, really good. Overall, this week's Raw was not that good. I don't think. You had some really good segments in there, but nothing really to say, oh, I must have the WWE Network for WrestleMania, or I must buy WrestleMania on pay-per-view, or anything like that. It just did not come off all that well this week on Raw. Like I said, you had a couple really good segments in there, couple and other storylines where they're not necessarily they're kind of disappointing at this point in time. So they got one more week before WrestleMania. Hopefully some of these storylines that are on the downturn going into the show have a little bit of a pickup and maybe a little bit of a change of direction. And obviously, hopefully, the ones that have been doing relatively good going into WrestleMania stay that course, and they have one more really good week of storytelling going into the WrestleMania pay-per-view. So that's my review this week for Monday Night Raw, and I thank you guys for watching.